I'm coming.
Oh, really? Bit premature, man, but okay. Okay, so you read the title. The Last of Us Part 1 has leaked. I just can't believe it. This is actually news. Why is this something that we're having to talk about? So basically, what happened was that a couple of sequences from the games leaked online, namely the scene of the duo of Joel and Ellie in Pittsburgh, the entrance scene with them getting out of the truck and having to fight through the hunters after the ambush, as well as then a later scene in Pittsburgh still, when they are fighting their way through a library. So that's what leaked. That's all it is. It's a few gameplay sequences. People have got well mad about it though. Like a lot of people are, it's bringing a lot more into the concern of how justifiable this is as a remake and as, the price point and all that there. But shortly after that video, those videos got leaked and all that there, and we started to see some uproar. Naughty Dog and Sony came out with a video of their own, talking about The Last of Us being built up from the PS5, which I'm going to talk about and sort of break down a little bit into what I like and dislike, but yeah. So in terms of the leak themselves, a lot of people seem to be mad for like two main reasons. The first one being that the game doesn't really look like a full remake. Like it's only a 9-year-old game. You wouldn't expect some big massive update in that sense in terms of like actual gameplay and how the system works. It is a modern game, The Last of Us, the original that is. So part 1 was always going to be more of a mainly a graphical enhancement. And that seems to be the case from the leaks. It doesn't seem to be many changes to the gameplay. Some radical changes. Things are smooth, obviously. Card model updates, environmental updates, and graphical updates, which is all great, but it doesn't really change the core of the game, which I think for $70 you're gonna sort of expect. The other reason for the leaks being a bit of a big deal is recently we've heard that this has come from a Sony side issue, so we might see more PlayStation exclusives that are coming out, namely God of War being leaked possibly, which won't be good because that game might actually contain spoilers worth talking about, where The Last of Us Part 1 doesn't. So that's a bit concerning, and I can see where people are getting a bit annoyed that things have leaked. It's also not the first time a Naughty Dog game has leaked. The Last of Us Part 2 had obviously the infamous leaks showing spoilers, Joel's death, and some of the events from that. Anyway, it's all a bit mad, but I want to go ahead, run through this new video, and just sort of discuss the points I like, the points I don't like. Spoiler warning, it's mainly good points, there's not a lot of bad points, but there's still stuff to talk about. So yeah, just gotta dive into that there, and we'll see what the crack is there. Let's go. Something I really liked is they showed side-by-side comparisons and sort of like over shots of different scenes throughout part 1. Namely, they do show different scenes of Joel and Tess walking through the security checkpoint. I really liked the Ellie and Riley scenes. They've changed the camera angles, they've changed the character models, the environments, a lot more atmosphere in them. They look phenomenal, look very close to photorealistic, I would say. It looks really good. It makes me excited that way. If we see that level of detail throughout all of the cutscenes, it's got to be really cool. It's got to look more like a movie, which is what the vibe of The Last of Us sort of goes for anyway, I find. Speaking of the character models themselves, despite a lot of criticism I've seen on how different Joel, Ellie, and Tess specifically look, I can't really see the problems with it. Ellie looks different than she did in part 1, or in the original. That's clear to see. But she also did in part 2, so this brings her more in line with her part 2 look, which is, as Neil says, the definitive version of what these characters should look like. That goes for Ellie as well. Joel's the same. He looks a lot more close to his part 2 counterpart. We've obviously seen a lot of discussion, we'll say, and I've personally shown a lot of annoyance with how they seem to have made him look too sad, and just looks like he's got the puppy dog eyes rolling at all times. But that's more of a nitpick than anything else. I do think his character model looks good. It's showing more of a range of emotions with Joel. He doesn't just look as cold anymore, which is pretty good to see. It's different, I will say, but it's cool to see. The other one was Tess. I seen a lot of people talking about Tess and her updated character models from screenshots a while ago. How she looks older now, or looks doesn't look as good as she looked in part one or the original of part one. But I don't see what the issue is. She actually looks like she's been surviving the apocalypse for 20 years now, instead of looking like she is just barely 20 years old. Which is really good to see. You know, it makes more sense for her and Joel to sort of teamed up. They're both survivors in this world, and they both now look like they have shared in that experience. I think in the original game there was a lot of a disparity between how Tess looked and how Joel looked, and you didn't really need to see that. You know, it was obviously side character versus main character type of thing, and it was a bit weird. So there's that. And overall, you can tell a lot in both the art design and the character models that, like, this isn't going for that same sort of style that The Last of Us Part 1 had. It's going for much more of a realistic and grounded look, which I think works in the game's favor, and I actually really appreciate that. Not to say that the original wasn't realistic, it was, but I think it was more of a limitation of the time compared to being able to go for full realism. Staying with the character models themselves, they added animations to the characters during gameplay, such as when Joel and Ellie are talking, they're going to like be moving their hands, they're going to be emoting, as compared to just sitting like a common NPC character talks to player character with the mouth barely moving. And I really like that sort of what they're going to make it look more fluid, more realistic, you know, how a person would actually, you know, talk and communicate. Because it's not all through speaking, you know, you have your facial expressions, you have your hands on move, your body language. And that's going to be relayed more in the gameplay sequences in the game. So that's going to be cool. I really love those wee small immersive details. And that's going to be great to see those come out in more of a full force. That also extends onto the fluidity of the animations, especially when you're playing as Joel and Ellie or whatever when you're playing as. You're going to see a lot more, you know, they talk about it in the video that, you know, they've got the system for how they work out, how the characters go in the direction they're going, and it chooses from a set of animations that they have set in their database. They had all the mocap, which is only Neil Druckmann, run through, and, you know, that's got to be pretty cool to see too. It just adds a lot more fluidity and makes things look a lot more realistic, and as I say, it's not a big thing people will notice the same, but it's a lot of work being put into it, and it's gonna be cool to see that be brought to fruition. The other big thing I really love was the animations of upgrading weapons. Looks really clean, and obviously more visually interesting compared to Part 1's way of doing things, where it was just sits down and he makes the upgrade and it's done. Now we get to see that full animation akin to Part 2, where Joel will sit and he'll, like, you know, screw up the barrel to put a new attachment on, he'll physically add a scope, he'll meddle around with the magazine chamber to get more rounds in there. I love those wee details. That's really good, and that's really cool to see that. It's nothing more than a visual representation of the buttons you're still going to be pressing anyway. There's no real inherent change, but it looks pretty, and it looks cool. I also really love that they went into a lot of detail on, like, the technical side of the animations and the AI and pathing and all that there. It looks really cool. So that includes, you know, as I said before, whenever your character's moving and wherever you're pressing the stick, it's going to be a corresponding animation, and they've doubled down on that to make it more animations for different circumstances, and it's going to be very, very specific. That's cool. As well as that, NPC pathing has been changed and adjusted to be more akin to Part 2's, and to sort of have, like, Ellie and Tess and that, they'll hide from guard paths, where in the first game, a lot of instances where Ellie will just sort of be sitting in the middle of the corner, and a guard will be looking right at her, and neither will notice the other, you know? So it's cool to see that that's getting updated. It just adds up more to that immersion again, as I say. Gonna speed run through some of the other things I really liked. I really like the new accessibility options that come from Part 2. It lets more gamers do gaming, and, you know, that's always a fucking benefit. You know, all that assistance and stuff, that's great. That's great for them. The outfits and the new screen for, like, changing your outfits, be able to see Joel and Ellie wearing different things. They had that in Part 1, but it was, like, hidden away in a third menu somewhere. But it's cool to see that just little wee touch of, you know, they may be able to wear those different outfits and stuff like that there. The displays, the display captures, they have, like, the little digital plaques, or, like, little dioramas, look really cool. The other thing I was going to make a whole segment on this, but I'm not going to, but it's the destruction elements that we see, specifically in the bridge chase scene, and with the tank shooting at Joel through Pittsburgh. That happens in that gameplay sequence. So overall, I do think that, like, as Neil says, this is the definitive version of The Last of Us.
We could actually come even closer to our original vision of what the first game would have been had we not been constrained by technology.
The original. It's more in line with what they want to do, especially going forward. That can only be a good thing. This is the creative vision that they want to set out and do. Obviously, a lot of debate on what Neil's creative vision is, but it can only be good. It's only going to be a good update. That's what I'm going to tell myself. But away from the good, let's go on to the... So, I was going to make like a whole sequence on this, on like different things that I found bad. The only real thing I found bad in the video trailer was the gameplay doesn't look justified in how changed it is. Like, the leak specifically doesn't show a lot of difference in enemy AI that's any more advanced than it was in the original. The graphical updates in that leak as well didn't look really all that much more impressive. It just looked like The Last of Us with a bit of polish. The video the Naughty Dog released shows it off a lot better, but I think it's good to keep both of those in mind when we look at this, that this is... It looks more like a remaster than a remake, I'm not going to deny. Like, yes, they have remade different things. That is true. It is, by definition, remade. But it's not... It hasn't made a big jump in difference. This isn't your Demon Souls to Demon Souls. This isn't your Final Fantasy to Final Fantasy. This is just... It's just a cleaner version, basically, of The Last of Us. And because of that, a big qualm that I have is the fact that we're having to pay $70 for this game. That's not a justifiable price. For all the real upgrades, like for bang for your buck, I could not wholeheartedly recommend this game to you if you've played The Last of Us before. If you've never played Part 1 before, and you were waiting for something like this to come out to play Part 1 to go with Part 2, if you want to play Part 2, then yeah, go for it. Experience the original Last of Us story. It's a great story. But I'm not making any qualms about the fact that, like, yes, I enjoyed the gameplay in The Last of Us, but it's not the best gameplay out there. And the main meat and potatoes of that game is the story and the world building around it, which aren't going to be changed drastically with a remake, and there's not many more updates you can do to it. But hopefully in the remake we are going to see a lot better gameplay, and maybe the gameplay will be more interesting. But from what I've seen so far, it's nothing astonishing. So to summarize where we're at with this, right? But going back to the leaks themselves, the leaks themselves aren't really bad in this case. Yes, when something leaks, it's not good. It's a bit of an upset thing for developers. Obviously, the last time a Naughty Dog game leaked, it was really bad. But in isolation, this didn't really show us anything awfully bad. It showed a few gameplay sequences, and it looks like The Last of Us. The Last of Us, 9 years later, looks like The Last of Us, and that's really all I can say there. But, yeah, overall, The Last of Us leaked. I don't really have more I can say. The video is cool, the game looks pretty good, it does look cool. So I'll finish here. Take it very easy, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, I would really like it if you subscribed and gave us a like as well. Leave a comment on what your thoughts on The Last of Us Part 1 Remake are. From the video, if you've seen the leaks, let me know your thoughts on those as well. Do you think this is worth being a remake? Or worth the price point of a remake? I don't know if it is. But, anyway, take it easy. See you later. Peace out.
Was that everything you hoped for?
Jury's still out.